The inappropriate comment that I know I said was, is this part of your benefits package?
Okay.
And they say I said, all the dick you want to see. I imagine if I was rambling, like, I shouldn't have said anything, but yes, it was an awkward situation. I was uncomfortable and
We're about to watch the parole hearing of a monster who was sentenced. Well, his full term date's not supposed to be till 2113. He was given 5 to 100 years for what he did to that 8-year-old back in 1999. But this is not his first parole hearing. No. He was granted already many years ago. This is actually his 6th parole hearing, because since being granted all the way back in 2006, he's been revoked 5 times for violating parole. Now we're going to go through this parole hearing, and then at the end I'll review the details of his crime by looking over the appeal and go through the patterns of his violation after violation after violation. I think this is a perfect use case to just show how broken the Utah parole system is, how they make these big 100-year sentences that they can blast off in press releases, tell the world how tough they are on crime, but in reality, they just release these monsters back into society over and over and over and over and over. I still haven't said 6 times over again. Thank you, Sir Rich, for putting this info together. With that, let's jump in.
This is a rescission hearing for Duane Brown, number 136399. Is that you, sir?
yes,
My name's Scott Manning. I'm a hearing officer with the Board of Pardons and Parole. I'll be conducting today. I am going to take testimony from you today. If you'd raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you provide today will be truthful and accurate?
yes, I do.
Thank you. Did you receive at least 7 days written notice of today's hearing along with your blue disclosure packet?
Yes, I brought it
Okay.
with me.
Well, I'm going to give a quick review of what's in that's the new information the board will consider. And then I have a couple questions for you about the disciplinaries that have led to today's hearing. And at the end of the hearing, I'll let you have the final word. You can bring up any discrepancies, errors, issues that you have at that time. Does that sound okay?
Yes, Scott, your name's Scott?
Scott Manning.
Thank you, Scott. Yes.
So the purpose of today's hearing is to discuss why your parole date was rescinded. I believe there was a contingency that you complete substance use treatment. We were notified by the Department of Corrections about disciplinary for indecent exposure, which it said prevented you from completing the substance use treatment program prior to the parole date that was scheduled. I believe since the parole date was granted, there's 3 new disciplinary convictions that I show, and 1 is pending. So really what I want to do today is go over each of those incidents so I can present your statements about that new information to the board members. And then from there, they can make a decision. After today's hearing, the board will again consider the appropriateness of a release, and if so, the timing, contingencies, and conditions of any such release. Okay?
Yes.
And they'll consider all the context. You've had multiple hearings since you returned from your 6th parole in 2020. I'm familiar with those details that have happened in those hearings. The board will also consider that information, but for purposes of time, I'm going to get to really the new information for today's hearing.
Yes.
So it looks like the date was rescinded in October 2024. The parole date was November 19th, 2024. That has been rescinded due to unmet contingencies. The write-up that they notified us about occurred on September 23rd, 2024. It was a B13. The report I reviewed says during a UA, so a urine analysis test, it says you, quote, intentionally exposed your genitals to the officer after making an inappropriate comment. This, of course, led to you being removed from the substance use treatment program, which was the contingency. So what happened in this incident?
Your analysis is just a common action that is taken, especially if you're over in the drug treatment and you expect to be tested once a month at least.
Yeah.
I've done 120 of them, 13 this year so far.
Okay.
And this one just was different because they had footprints put down on the other side of the toilet. And they said, place your feet there, which is okay. That's what we do, is we face them. And when they said, "Yeah, okay, pull your pants down halfway," they want to make sure you don't have any stupid bags or any tricks.
Familiar, I'm familiar with that process. I
There's-
worked at the prison too, so I'm familiar with how that all works.
There was two of them standing there.
Okay, two
That was
officers. Okay,
new. That was different.
okay.
Um,
So really what I'm interested in, it says you
what
quote
happened?
intentionally exposed your genitals to the officers after making an inappropriate comment. So first of all, what was the inappropriate comment?
The inappropriate comment that I know I said was, is this part of your benefits package?
Okay.
And they say I said, all the dick you want to see. I imagine if I was rambling, like, I shouldn't have said anything, but yes, it was an awkward situation. I was uncomfortable and I chose to open my mouth and try to make light of it.
I'm understanding you
Exposing my
correctly.
genitals.
You said in the context of that, is this part of your benefits package? And then that second statement is what else that you said, or was that this statement?
I imagine, I don't know how much more I said or what I said beyond that. I know I said that, yes, sir.
Okay, and there may have been other comments, but you don't recall those at this moment. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes,
Okay.
I was very uncomfortable and when I started rambling, it
You're
was wrong.
uncomfortable because you said you've done 120 of the urine analysis tests, but I
Yeah.
guess your statement is it was different because there was two officers present. That's what made you uncomfortable?
Well, yeah, there was two of them. I asked, can you at least act like you're not watching? And, they're pretty by the book or something. It's like, nope.
The purpose of that is to see that, everything's done appropriately because they need to assure themselves that it's your urine they're testing, that you're the individual that's in the substance use treatment program, right? So that's kind of how that works. But sorry to cut you off. Is anything
No.
else you wanted to add with that?
No, it was wrong. And I can't, I'm very disappointed in myself because just feeling awkward and feeling uncomfortable does not, I need to learn to roll with that. Say, hey, that's not even a bad, there's a whole lot more worse feelings than that.
Okay.
Someone cut me off in traffic or something. I'm disappointed and that was wrong.
From there,
but-
and sorry to cut you off as well, and I'm interested in the comments you're making, but just to be clear, it says that you quote exposed your genitals to the officers. What was that? Was that in a way that was outside the regular goings about with a UA? What was that? What did that consist of?
I believe I had the cup in my left hand, my penis in the right. I might have been talking to my bladder saying, come on, just relax. I've taken a deep breath. There's a few things I'd try. Because the older I get, the harder it is. They call it shy bladder, I think. And I should have just rolled with it. And if I couldn't produce, let them know.
Because what I'm asking, it says that you quote exposed your genitals to the officer. If I'm understanding you correctly, your statement is there was nothing outside the ordinary of a regular UA other than the comments you made, or was there some sort of gesture or movement made as well? What happened with that?
When I talked to the IDHO, the hearing officer,
Yeah.
I asked her to speak with Corrections Officer Grant. He was the senior officer there.
Okay.
And after, because it was an A7 write-up for sexual misconduct.
Okay.
After review, and she amended it after talking with him to the B13 disorderly conduct.
Does that, and really, I just have the reports that I'm reviewing from UDC, and that's what I'm limited to. So I'm asking you what happened. Am I understanding correctly that it was exposing your genitals in the context of a urine analysis test, but no additional gesture etc. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct.
And the comments that you said occurred, that is the extent of the inappropriate comment? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for answering those questions. I have the reports that I received. They're quite general. So I
Yes.
wanted to get statements from you so that I can understand this incident and the board can have complete information. I know
Yes.
quickly you have 3 write-ups. I think they were taking food without authorization from the cafeteria. Is that accurate as to what happened in those other 3 incidents?
Yes, my ADA grabbed my tray and I also grabbed the tray and I didn't return it. So yes, I got an extra tray.
Okay. On all 3 occasions, because there's 3 of them, February 13th, 2024, July 21st, 2024, and October 25th, 2024. Was that a
Oh,
similar
Those other
incident all
ones
3
were
times?
taking the food out of the culinary.
Food out
It
of the
was my
culinary?
food. Yeah, one time it was the honey bun, I think. And
Okay.
another time or something, it was an apple or,
Okay.
you're not allowed to take food out of the culinary and I was taking it back and eating it later.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for those comments. I personally think it's very important that the board has clear statements from you about these incidents so that they can consider those as they're making a decision. Then my final question, are you back in the substance use treatment program or what is the status of that?
Because it was an A write-up,
Mhm,
A7,
mhm.
they moved me over to the Bears. So all I can do over there is the AA.
Okay.
That's just not hanging out with anyone who does drugs and trying to stay out of trouble and
That-
work on, because I know my behavior was totally wrong that day.
Yeah. And sorry to cut you off again. I do want to allow you to say anything you'd want to, but just to be clear, the information the board is, they ordered a contingency that you complete
Yes.
substance use treatment. So it's possible the board after today's hearing would say, okay, we'll grant a parole, but you need to complete that contingency. So do you have any understanding of how long it will take for you to get back into substance use treatment? Obviously, you may not know that, but I haven't received any reports from the prison about that either. So I'm just wondering if they've told you how long it would take to get back into the program.
I imagine it would be 90 days from the time of my removal.
Days from removal. Okay.
And then I have 2 months left.
2 months left in the program.
Yes. And
Your
that,
understanding is you would be able to start the program from where you left off?
yes.
Okay.
And because this was a A7 sexual misconduct, she amended it after reviewing to the
Mhm.
B13 disorderly conduct, reckless endangerment. It's a
That's what I
lot
show.
lower.
That shows on my end as well. So that
Yeah.
amendment has been entered.
Thank you.
All right, so we're just about out of time. Thank you for answering those questions. I really think the board will be interested in those details that I asked about, but I do want to give you a chance to make any further statements that you'd like the board to know about. So you can please continue with that if you'd like to.
I've lost all family members and support here in Utah. It's fallen away. I've been down 4 years this time. I would like to get this satisfied and be able to go home. Home is Phoenix, Arizona. I have siblings there. Both of them recently lost a mate or divorced. I would like to be closer to my family. My goal is to get this done, finished, stay clean and sober, go home and garden. Phoenix, you can do that almost year round. I'm willing to do whatever is needed, is required. And this write-up is an eye opener because there are so many other feelings that are worse than that. I need to be prepared. Just awkward and uncomfortable is no reason to make it worse. That's something I'm aware of and need to work on.
Okay.
But that's all. I don't know what else I can, uh, look forward to hearing from the board, and then I will do
Okay.
whatever is required.
Well, thank you for those statements. I've taken notes of those. What I'll do from here is take your case under advisement. I've put together a report of everything I reviewed before today's hearing. I'll include what you and I talked about into that report after today's hearing, and then I'll submit that to the members of the board by tomorrow. Usually it takes the board a couple weeks. We say between 2 to 4 weeks for a decision to be made. Once that decision is officially made, we'll send it to you in writing through the mail, and it will also be posted to the Board of Pardons website. So with that, thank you for being here, Mr. Brown, and discussing these things with me. I wish you the best of luck moving forward, and we'll go ahead and conclude.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
You too.
Okay, so they granted parole because why not? I guess who doesn't deserve 7 chances? And while he's even there, he's getting write-ups. Can you imagine? But let's go over the appeal just so you can see what a monster he is. He did this to the 8-year-old friend of his stepchild, went to trial, the whole thing. So he was granted for parole effective October 21st, 2025. And let's just go through this. You can see it's like an old school. This was from 1999. It's like faxed in. You can see the old binder marks here. Thank you, Sir Richard, for finding this out of the Internet archives. So sometime, and this is intense. This is a lot to read, by the way, what they go through here. I guess the warning now. Sometime during the spring and summer of 1998, 8-year-old Jessica went to visit her friend Victoria, the defendant's daughter. The two planned to run through the sprinklers because that's just what you do when you're 8 years old. Jessica's mother drove her to Victoria's grandmother. For some reason, Jessica and Victoria left the grandmother's home and went to the defendant's nearby home. They began watching a Disney movie because that's what an 8-year-old does. Can you imagine a day running in the sprinklers in a Disney movie that alters her life forever? Victoria left during the movie to visit a friend across the street. Now alone with Jessica, the defendant directed her to lay next to him on the couch. Jessica complied. Defendant then unzipped his shorts and exposed his, and rubbed it against Jessica's cloth leg. Jessica stood up in shock because she didn't want this to happen to her. Defendant then instructed Jessica to go find Victoria. Jessica found Victoria at the friends across the street. The two returned to the defendant's home where they played darts in Victoria's room. Jessica's mother picked her up about half an hour later. Jessica never played with Victoria again. During the same summer, Jessica's behavior suddenly changed. She began vomiting without reason. She also became very bossy towards her younger brother. Jessica's vomiting episodes stopped after she testified at the preliminary hearing. Isn't that amazing that once she testified, once she was able to get it out, the sickness stopped? That's just incredible there. But I'm still trying to figure out what's happening. Are there 2 victims, or is it? Let's go on. In October 1998, Hurricane Police Detective Shane Copeland learned that the defendant may have sexually abused Jessica. He contacted her mother to set up an interview at the Children's Justice Center. Jessica's first interview took place on the 28th of October 1999. Detective Copeland and Julie Wilden, a social worker with the Division of Child Family Services, interviewed Jessica. Jessica had never met her interviewers before and was not sure why they were interviewing her. During the interview, Detective Copeland asked Jessica whether something happened that made her feel uncomfortable or yucky. Jessica responded no. Jessica also responded negatively when asked whether something happened to anybody in the house that made her feel uncomfortable. Detective Copeland concluded the interview unsubstantiated. Jessica's behavior during the interview suggested that she didn't want to talk about the subject. At the beginning of the interview, Jessica was very talkative, outgoing. Her demeanor changed as the detective questioned her about whether anything happened that would have made her feel uncomfortable, or specifically about Jessica would not look at her interviewers. She also bowed her head, hesitated, and shrugged her shoulders when answering. Jessica seemed happier after Detective Copeland told her that the interview was over. After the first interview, Detective Copeland told Jessica's mother that he was still concerned and encouraged her to contact Jessica if ever mentioned the abuser. I got to tell you, I get it that this is 1998, 1999, But having a male interviewer ask a woman about a male who abused her, maybe they were the same age, that's just really freaking dumb. It doesn't take a PhD to know that that is dumb. Okay? But what do we know? We're just sheeple. No, really, that's just insane. And I'm not like, for those of you who know me, I'm not one that calls these type of things out that often. This just sticks out to me as insane. He cautioned her, however, confronting Jessica or asking Jessica's leading questions. A few days after the interview, Jessica wrote on a piece of paper that she had seen something and handed the paper to her mother. She asked her mother when she had talked about it and explained the details of her abuser. Jessica's mother contacted Detective Copeland and set up a second interview. Jessica explained to her mother that she didn't disclose the abusing during the first interview because she was scared. At trial, Jessica explained that she didn't immediately tell her mother about the sexual abuse because she thought she was going to get in trouble. Jessica disclosed the abuse during the second interview. Both Detective Copeland and Miss Wilden testified that in their experience, it was not unusual for a child victim to withhold information. And this goes to trial. And again, so he was convicted. I'm looking through Sir Richard's notes here, and we'll go over that in a moment. But he was convicted in, I think, 1999, and he gets paroled. Was it? He has his first hearing in 2006. He's denied, but he's granted in 2007. So he's given a life sentence, and he serves a whopping 7 years at most. Then he violates 6 times. That's Utah. They are a bunch of BSers. They do not care about children. You go to trial, you go to the expense of a trial, and then you really release them immediately after and have to put them through. She would have been in middle school or whatever by the time she would have had to shown up to talk at his parole hearing if she did that, which I'm sure she didn't. But okay, let's see where this goes. On cross-examination, defense counsel asked Mr. Wilson, "Isn't it also true that Miss Wilson, sometimes a child will say something that's true?" Shut up. With respect to the last question, something you would have led Jessica to believe that she was trying to please you. Let's see what happened here. At the trial, the additional above evidence also heard the following of the trial. The prosecutor asked Detective Copeland, "Okay, you mentioned something about you told your parents you don't want them asking leading questions. Can you explain to the jury what you meant?" "We don't want children to be led by questions. For example, if you would say the defendant's name, has the defendant done this to you? They might take that as saying yes. That would make him happy." And said, yes, parents say yes. But what happened? So we don't want to leave. Okay, they're just stupid. On cross-examination, defense counsel asked Miss Wilson, "Isn't it also true, Miss Wilden, that sometimes a child will say something that isn't true, isn't it factual? They want to please someone who they're saying they want to expect to say." They're just going through this, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I want to know. Did something additional happen outside of that first event? Neither Detective Copeland nor Miss Wilden testified of the truthfulness of the witness on a particular occasion violation. Detective Copeland generally explained the problem inherent in asking the leading question of any child victim of SA. His testimony is commented. I think we go on to gander that something more happened that's causing, right? But and you don't get the life sentence for that. So but I don't know. I don't know what it is, and I'm sorry. When you do all of these hearings, there's only so much time that you can allocate to each appeal. This is a 42-page document, and I don't read the entire document ahead of time. I'll look for the statement of facts and then go there. So I don't have all the information. I know that can be frustrating. It's not clear to me if this is the first victim or if this is a second victim. scheme it, though, this is interesting that they went to trial back in those days. They didn't do that very often. And even though you go to trial and they find you guilty by a jury, they still get him out in 6 years, 7 years. That's just insane. It really is. Okay. The court need not look upon evidence establishing the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Jessica testified that after the defendant directed her to lay on the couch next to him, he unzipped his shorts, exposed nobody against her leg. 8-year-old Jessica was playing at the defendant's home under his supervision when he abused her. She repeated the details of abused mother. Detective Copeland, Ms. Weldon's statement. Additionally, the jury could reasonably infer that Jessica had been abused from the evidence during the summer of 1998. She had suddenly begun vomiting for no reason and became unusually bossy towards her younger brother. The evidence and apply short in the jury's conclusion, the ongoing reasons. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll show you the entire crazy, ridiculous process of what happened. So here you can see that he has the original hearing scheduled on the year 2000. So they scheduled it for 2006. So within 2 years, they would have already scheduled the parole hearing. He has the original hearing in 2006, which that's when victims can come and speak and blah, blah, blah. They made a rehearing for 2007. So if the victim would have attended, they would have been denied, but then had to have shown up a year later for a rehearing. If you just, this would have been 3 times they would have had to confront him in like a courtroom setting to lock him up in a 7-year period. They agreed to release him in 2007. In 2009, he gets violated. A warrant for his arrest. He gets paroled in 2010, now for the second time. It seems he violated because in 2011 there's a warrant for his arrest June 23rd, 2011. He gets released in 2012. Or it's released in 2015. It's hard for me to keep track. He's arrested immediately after June 25th, 2015. He has his parole violation hearing. He gets released at some point. It gets released. Here it is. Parole granted 1/5/2016. A warrant for his arrest on 8/14/2017. He gets reparoled 8/14/2018. They say no beds available. Look at that, no beds available. So I guess you're letting him out with different problems here. A warrant for his arrest in 2020 because he's revoked, and as you can see, it just keeps happening again and again and again. What can you do? It's a joke. The whole thing's a joke, and there you have it. With that, I'll let you go.
The inappropriate comment that I know I said was, is this part of your benefits package? And they say I said, all the dick you want to see. I imagine if I was rambling, like I shouldn't have said anything, but yes, it was an awkward situation. It was uncomfortable, and I